Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for holding this hearing. I just want to take a moment to reflect on what happened here earlier. This oversight committee, which I'm waived on to today to participate, is one of the 3 committees dealing with impeachment directly. There's a lot of talk about it. Actually, a lot of committees are not dealing with it at all, but this is one. So members of the committee have been downstairs in the secret confidential chambers, the SCIF, to listen to impeachment testimony, which is part of their job. It was the effort of the Republicans to come bring their whole crowd here so that they could shut down this hearing and not hear it all from you 2 gentlemen. And Governor Brown, I want to thank you for being here, and Senator Whitehouse, I know you have other things to do, but they were so interested in making sure we couldn't even hear from you that they took the time to come away from those impeachment hearings, which they complain are secret, to sit and try to shut down this committee. It strikes me that in the context of this problem, which we describe as the moonshot, the next world war, that it's very difficult to do that with one party. And when you said the Republican Party will be on board, they will be on board, and some of them already are. And I think you know, in Florida, we have a lot of colleagues who see that the streets are wet on sunny days. They know what's going on. But the level of effort to try to defeat this hearing, even the truth for coming out, I think is pretty discouraging. I want to just also acknowledge that some of the car companies are on board too. And we talk about the automobile industry as though it's monolithic, but Honda, Ford, Volkswagen, and BMW, they are enlightened enough to come on board with California to say, listen, we know that to compete, to maintain our market share, we need fair rules that pull us all along. And I think that that deserves to be pointed out too. Governor Brown, last time we spoke, we were in the Vatican, and we were speaking to the Pontifical Academy of Sciences about the importance of this issue. And I also want to acknowledge that in addition to being joined by members of the Catholic faith, we were joined by members of the evangelical faith who know that saving God's creation is an imperative. And recent reports from the New York Times and other outlets have explained how young evangelicals are leaving the Republican Party over values issues. They don't like the separation of families, they don't like things like the Muslim ban, and they don't like the Republicans, the kind of thing we saw today on climate change. So the truth is coming our way. But I want to ask one specific thing, because the thing that I think that you hear often from our colleagues is you can't have a clean environment and a prosperous economy. I want you to talk a little bit about what we've shown in California about that, and also maybe reflect a little bit on your training as a Jesuit as to why this is a moral issue as well as an economic issue.
Well, those are 2 separate issues, the
You
practical
got a minute each.
And the theological. Let me start with the mundane first. Let's understand what an economy is. The economy is just a gross measure of whatever is going on. It's the measure of transactions that are economically significant. You can sell horse and buggies, you can sell gas guzzlers, you can sell electric cars. There are initial costs, that's true, that you have to have upfront costs. But you can run an economy on solar as well as you can run it on oil. The only difference is that oil generates carbon emissions. And we know that carbon emissions have to come to a halt, at least a net zero. We got to get there. You may have some from medicine and whatever, but California says by 2045, we're going to be at net zero. I hope that's fast enough. I don't see how this country is going to get there or the world, but we got to get there. And when things really get bad, people will get going. But then it's going to be a lot more expensive. So our economy, by the way, when I was in 2010, the unemployment rate was over 12%. Now it's down at 4%. The GDP was $2 trillion. Now it's up at $2.8 trillion. Even though we have the toughest car regulations, the toughest appliance standards, and a cap and trade program. That doesn't stop you, because innovation and investment can generate the wealth. And by the way, Detroit did a very good job in building cars in the 1970s people didn't want. And so the Japanese came in and grabbed 20, 30% of the market share. That's going to happen again. Now, I'm not saying China has it all right, but they do have a strategy to go to electric cars, hydrogen cars, and if they put all the money into that, and we don't, we'll be importing foreign cars, that'd be a tragedy. In terms of the theology, the Pope did say at that Vatican Pontifical Academy meeting that the web of life, the mysterious interconnection of all living things. We're a part of the environment. We're not over here and the environment over there. We are part of all creation, all the species. And if we systematically destroy the other species, we destroy ourselves. And that is what the Pope is saying. Also at that meeting, we talked about the effect of health. Health is affected by auto exhaust. It's affected by a rising sea, whether it's in Bangladesh or New York City. It's happening. It may not happen on the time scale of running for election, but it's going to happen in the time scale of people living in this room. And all I can say is wake up, get responsible. Yes, it's theological. It's also economic.
Thank you, Governor. I yield back.